Hello, my name is Nancy Wilson, and I'm the moderator of Metropolitan Community Churches globally. At our recent General Conference in Acapulco, Mexico, we passed a proposal that calls for an international task force that will come together to move MCC forward as a global movement. The new governing board of MCC has made it one of its highest priorities. We have finished the charge and the proposal for the task force and are ready to send out applications for participation in this effort. The goal is for this task force to bring proposals back to the governing board for approval at our 2013 General Conference in Chicago, Illinois. We are very excited about the ways in which we anticipate that this task force will contribute to the future of MCC in a world that needs our message and ministry. Why should we have an international task force for metropolitan community churches? MCC has had a vision of being global since our early days. In faith, we discerned that the message that God gave Troy Perry was not meant only for a few churches in a few countries in North America. Over the years, our ministry has expanded to include more than 30 countries with contacts in many dozen more. But it is not about statistics. It's about people and communities. Reverend CJ in the Philippines, who hosted the very first Revem in Asia this year. The half a dozen new clergy interns in the Philippines are going to explode the presence of MCC there in the next few years. It's also about Reverend Alberto with several groups and emerging churches in Panama, or Florin fighting for human rights, supporting MCC groups in the Ukraine, in Moldova, in Malta, in Russia. A young lesbian in Pakistan who has a chance to go to school because of MCC, or a child and mother of peace orphanage in Zimbabwe, supported by many MCC members and churches along with the fellowship. It's about LGBT people of faith in Uganda who are fighting for their human rights and crying out to make their fight our fight. It is about the courageous Jamaicans who are Sunshine Cathedral of MCC in Jamaica, while fighting lethal homophobia every day. It's about our people in Haiti, so surprised to meet ICM Santo Domingo, who came to help after the earthquake, amazed to hear the good news of God's love from God's queer saints in the Dominican Republic. A few things seem true and almost self-evident. Our mission to tear down walls and build up hope is an urgent one, as the hymn says. Today, in the beginning of the second decade of the 21st century, our communities are emerging, thriving, and being tested all over the world. Even with our American roots, MCC's passion as the gay church, the church with AIDS, and more recently the human rights church does translate into many cultures and contexts. But the demand for MCC resources, training, and connection has long outstripped our human and financial resources. When the Strategic Review Team reviewed MCC structure in 2009 and 10, it was aware that the question of our international structure was beyond their capacity and scope. One of their most important recommendations, which the General Conference passed, was to take the time and spend the resources to gather a truly global task force to engage the issues of MCC's global ministry structure and future, to make recommendations to the next General Conference. We are at a crossroads. If we do not make this investment now in empowering a global structure to hold our future, we will lose many opportunities for MCC. People's lives and whole communities are depending on us rising to this challenge. Clearly, there are many people in countries who are struggling for justice and liberation, who want to align with the radically inclusive gospel we preach. In the places in the world that Christianity is growing the fastest, it is much often a more conservative Christianity than in the West or the global North. There, our communities are hungering for good news of the amazing grace of God for them. At the same time, we are aware that our resources are spread too thin. Our communication systems and capacity is often not adequate for our global needs. We are just beginning to create ways to develop and train new leaders. How can we do this now with more cross-cultural competency? How do people in MCCs and emerging places feel a sense of empowerment to make MCC their own, while also having a dynamic connection with the more established MCC churches and countries? How do we let go of control but ensure that MCC Everywhere has an unequivocal witness to our values and passion for God's unconditional love. Finally, how do we minister across the great gulfs of language, culture, and economics? How might we envision sustainability in different challenging contexts? How do we welcome and integrate a much younger cadre of international leaders promoting healthy spirituality and human rights into MCC's global structure and ministry? But we can only tackle the how if we really know the why. It's the people behind the why that cause us to press on and undertake this new challenge.